What's up, everybody? My name is Matt Mosveen, and you are on air with Radio Chatter. Joining us on the flight deck today, we have somebody very animated and fun. Who are you?
I'm a pilot. No, that would be bad.
You look like I'm the one that doesn't have the aviators on today.
Look the part. Aviators, got the headset on, but I am the community host for CTV Morning Live, dabble as a weather anchor, and I also co-host the Motivation Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Matt Mosveen here. I'm super excited to introduce you to Krissy Vann, but I just wanted to give you some background first. At the time this was shot, Krissy was having the time of her life as a news anchor on CTV Morning Live. A couple of weeks after we shot, she made a big announcement that she had taken the next step in her career by going all in on her amazing podcast, All Things Fitness and Wellness. So please bear that in mind as we enter somewhat of a time capsule now to explore Krissy's perspective both as a former news anchor and as a passionate fitness guru.
Coming at you live from 9,500 feet over top of Misty Lake, which is in British Columbia, right behind Garibaldi Park, if you're familiar with it. It's golden hour. It's an absolutely beautiful day, and let's dive right into it.
Yeah, let's not dive, but dive right in.
Nose dive. I guess I got to be clear about that one.
It's true.
For the first time in my life, I think I'm not the only weather nerd in the airplane.
Yes.
So you often anchor weather for CTV, for CTV Vancouver, and before you were at CTV, you were at the Weather Network. So I guess a good place to start would be do you have a favorite type of cloud? We don't have a cloud in the sky today, but what's your favorite cloud?
Towering cumulus, obviously.
I love that that's your favorite cloud, although I'm sure you know,
probably.
Yeah, they're not super compatible with flying airplanes. Why do you like towering cumulus? Let's explain to the audience what a towering cumulus cloud is first, and then we can talk about it in more detail.
Well, basically, storm action is normally when we'll see them. So you're just going to see they're the big, puffy, awesome, mean-looking clouds, normally juicy, so not ideal if you're riding a motorbike.
Yeah.
But honestly, in the weather world, to clarify, I am not a meteorologist. I just play one on TV.
Yeah.
But I have always been a weather nerd. Literally, when I wanted to work at the Weather Network, it was not by accident. I applied there every 4 months.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, it's like one of those things.
You have to realize as well, obviously now we have everything in the palm of our hands, but I grew up, I'm 35, so didn't grow up with weather apps.
Yeah.
And so you literally would have to watch the TV to know what you were going to be facing for your day.
Yeah.
Like everything was a mystery at that point. Do I wear a sweater? Do I not? So it's just always something that I'm like impacts every little thing that we do. So storm chasing, getting out there. I have literally been in blizzards that have sandblasted my face. Amazing thunderstorms that look epic, and I love it.
And I'm curious, so that's amazing. First of all, I had no idea that it was so how many times of applying did it take you to get into the Weather Network then?
It probably took me about an hour and a half, and
what?
Or an hour and a half. See, this is what happens when you wake up for a morning show. Your brain's like, I'm going to go on holiday.
I was like, I want to apply to the Weather Network. That sounds amazing.
An hour and a half, boom, you got a job. You're set. So about a year and a half, I quite honestly was such a green broadcaster, and I look back at my reel now and you're like, oh, that checks out that I didn't get a job right away. But I would get really crafty with my resumes. So I literally took the home screen of their website, and my cover letter was a 7-day forecast, but with all my skills and attributes as each day of the week.
Oh my God, that's so smart.
And so I would just spam them with these ridiculous things by registered mail, and eventually they were probably like, this woman won't stop, just invite her in.
Yeah. Yeah, the squeaky wheel gets the squeaky, I don't know, gets the oil. There's some expression for that.
Something about cheese.
And then the early bird gets the worm, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of flip from both to the one to the other. But that's really cool. I feel like that's even more remarkable in the age of registered mail too.
Right.
I could see that happening now with the internet. It's so easy to apply, but that really takes a lot of energy on your side.
Oh, and I would send it because I was so young and naive. I'd be like, gotta go to the CEO. The CEO is not taking the resumes.
No, 100%. But if you get their attention though, that's probably going to stand out among the rest of the people that are applying. I guess going back to weather, what goes on behind the scenes? Surely you're not the one reading the instruments and sending the balloons into the atmosphere. So I guess how does that information find its way to you then?
Definitely. Well, when I was at Weather Network, they have a multi-tiered system, essentially. So they would have their full team of meteorologists that are obviously dealing with their supercomputers, compiling all the data, and then that would filter down to a briefing meteorologist. So basically your morning, like that was a 24-hour channel. So I would get up at 1:30 in the morning, commute to work 45 minutes, get there, and then you'd sit down with your briefing meteorologist that would basically take super science, break it down a level for you, and then your job as a presenter would be to break it into something digestible for the person walking out the door. Now, in my role at CTV, we honestly just use a bunch of the model data, obviously get insight from Environment Canada. I find Avalanche Canada's mountain weather forecast really, really helpful, being in British Columbia as well. And I'll just read all of those briefings, and then we do actually build our graphics on site. So that's a big part of the job.
And is that you? That's not you building the graphics, right? Like you have producers or people like.
No.
Oh, really? You build so you have less people doing that, so it's like kind of more hats that you have to wear.
Definitely, and that's something that I think has evolved over time in the industry. And to be honest, I think so much of it has become more user friendly in time as well, right? Like
right.
I've been in broadcasting. The ironic timing of this is that my first live ever was on August 2nd. Obviously, people could be watching this at any time, but it's end of July right now. And so my 10-year anniversary of doing live in major market is coming up. And when I think of how much the landscape or things that you have available, or even when you look at what we have on this plane in regards to tools that we use, it just keeps getting better and better. I'm like, we live in the future.
We kind of do, except we can't get our GoPro on the wing to turn on. So I'm going to check on that and see if it still says it's connecting.
And yes, we tried turning it off and turning it back on again.
Yeah, it wants us to go out on the wing right now, which is a little bit sketchy. But yeah, I think we're going to have to... Ooh, we got a power on button. I don't know. We'll see if it works. So how many people... So, like, from the time that the sample is taken, the weather balloon goes up, to the time that, like, you're reading it or you're narrating it on camera to the audience, like, how many people or layers does it go through on the Weather Network compared to, like, on CTV?
Like, a drastic difference.
That's
when
crazy.
I'm going in for my day at CTV, it's me. So I, have all those hats. And then Weather Network days, I mean, we had a full team. And if it was active weather, because for them, obviously, it's 24 hours of content, right?
Yeah.
So, and as well, they would be tracking things like, for example, in Saskatchewan, the prairies, part of our tornado alley. If there's a tornado on the ground, you have people that are coming to you for quite literally life-saving information. So we would have all hands on deck on the ground that are feeding you briefs, the latest warnings. It would be a full-scale team effort. Whereas obviously the difference is for CTV, your segments, you're in a 1-hour news wheel. I fit a whole forecast in 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Right.
So you just have to learn how to be extremely concise and communicate what is necessary in an engaging way in the shortest way possible.
It's a little bit more casual, and you're not trying to save people's lives necessarily. Like, I mean, obviously that's helpful if you can on CTV, but if you're looking for life-saving weather information, you should probably look on the Weather Network first.
Yeah, well, like the thing with CTV as well is that where it does become pretty nice if it is a big story or weather event, or for obviously being in British Columbia, wildfires or something that come to mind.
Yeah.
That then now is a news story as well. So your news team then's coming in on it. You have boots on the ground. You have people out doing interviews, getting all the experts' opinions. So you don't feel all the pressure as much. Then it becomes a more of a collaborative approach.
A producer of yours at a former unnamed cable television broadcaster dedicated to the weather wants to know, what's the worst storm conditions or both maybe, coldest conditions that you've ever been reporting on air?
It is, without a doubt, being in New Brunswick. I was in Fredericton. I got sent out for a storm. They lost my luggage, and it was my tripod, and I was a video journalist at the time. So you're like one-person rodeo at this point. Tripod
That's a VJ,
is necessary.
by the way. I know my terminology.
See, we're all learning the lingo now. It was minus 26. I think they got about 50 centimeters in less than 24 hours. And at the time, we were kitted out. And I get not everyone agrees with the brand, but we were sponsored the jackets by Canada Goose at the time.
Sure.
And I was so saturated, like through this Arctic expedition jacket. My mittens, same thing. I was hanging them in my hotel after. And it's just, you're waiting to go live, and there's just no way of getting warm in between. And then in tandem with that, they get nor'easters. So the winds are basically a hurricane force wind. And that's where it's nature's exfoliation, just sandpaper in the face. But you know what? It's so bad that it's great.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're like, it's so intense.
I mean,
and brutal, and you're kind of like, well, like, this is a crazy job. Like, cool.
I mean, you asked for it. I mean, if you wanted to work at the Weather Network, then you're just gonna have to put up with that. But I feel like a lot of people would be pretty scared, you know. And like, that's the type of cold that just goes right through you.
Definitely. But at the end of the day, you're kind of like, it's all part of it, and it's the stories. Like, even right away, it's the first thing that comes to mind. So they become a memory where you're like, one time I was the crazy person standing there saying, "Don't leave your home. It's terrible." And then I'm the one out there leaving the home.
I'd love to get more into the news side of things, because you've obviously been all over Canada for your whole career, you know, starting a cruise ship, then radio, then weather, then obviously working in your current life with the CTV. And so how did you know early on that, I guess, that you wanted to be in media?
Yeah, honestly, I was a little kid, and I knew to some degree I wanted to do something performative. And I remember being in high school, and you know how you'd have a textbook that would have those little case studies that'd be like, Cheryl bought 5 apples at the grocery store kind of thing. But there was one in particular.
Like math class?
Yeah, and it was like one in particular, and this character was a journalist. And in my mind, I was like, oh, I never really thought about that. And then I started diving in, and I was like, okay, this is a viable career path. Simultaneously realizing within myself, again, the hard news avenue was never going to be it for me.
Right.
And so as I was progressing through the steps, you started to realize there's not as many opportunities. You're eliminating a huge part of what you could do for a living at that point. If you don't want to be an anchor or a news reporter, what am I going to do then if I want to be on camera on TV? So that's kind of where that then filtered down to become like Weather Network, or like now working in branded sponsor content and community. I've really lucked out to find niches that match the personality.
That's actually super interesting, because I feel like you kind of need to have a niche in order to, like, for lack of a better term, like, sell yourself as the right person for a particular role, because you really just, you have to be, like, passionate about it and everything.
Yeah.
I feel like I've probably already, like, made some misconceptions, or I didn't know what, like, hard news meant. So, like, what's something that everybody gets wrong about news and media?
Oh, gosh. Honestly, especially right now, I feel like things are really polarized. And I think that if you walked in, especially in local news, I think it's understanding its role and its purpose in our lives. I think we have incredible journalists that want to do the digging, to ask the questions, to hold politicians accountable by asking the questions. And we're in a scary time right now. There's so much information out there, and also obviously everyone's heard the term fake news, and I wish that people could come and meet the hardworking journalists that I work around that really, really care about the stories they're telling them in an unbiased fashion. And on top of that, digging deep into a story and uncovering things. Like, there's this whole investigative journalism aspect that goes on. There's so much work that happens before stories break. So much digging beyond the information that's just handed to you. That's the part that I wish that people understood more, because I think there's a tremendous lack of respect from a lot of people in the industry now, and it's hard to watch when you see such educated individuals and talented individuals. And really, it's an important service, like freedom of the press, right?
Exactly. And like, I find it funny because it's like, on Facebook, I recently, like, shared an article with somebody, and it reminded me, it's like, hey man, you haven't even read this article and you're sharing it with your friend, and it's just like the quick pace of information, it's just so, like, disposable now.
Yep.
So I feel like that's something that we're just really bad at now, is like, looking deeper into what actually, like, is this information legitimate, and like what work went into putting it out there, instead of it being like the information equivalent to fast fashion, you know?
Yes. Well, and it's like, all the time as well. People are like, you're a paid actor. I had a TikTok go viral once, and it went viral with the wrong bass that I got. Or it was great for my engagement. So I was kind of like, okay, bring it on. It was so personal. Even the things that they would pick apart about you physically and stuff like that. And you're like, I literally am someone that goes to work and tells community stories. Yes, I work in the branded sponsored content space as well, but I was like, you have no idea of who as a person you're attacking. It's the keyboard warrior thing now, you know? And luckily, you're pretty good at not taking it to heart. But sometimes you're like, there's a person on the other side of it. It doesn't feel great when that happens, you know?
I hear you. Yeah. Hey, that's something I'd probably take a little bit personal too. So, I mean, maybe I shouldn't be making content then, but
totally.
You know, it's a bit of a different ball game when that's like you're paid to do that, and then like there's this like really personal connection to the things that you put out. One of my favorite things about doing the show is actually like it gives me an excuse to talk to people who are like to kind of like hijack people for like hours.
Yes.
Who are really passionate about what they do, and I just love hearing that come through and spending time around that kind of energy. So. Yeah, like that's so cool to hear that that's how you look at it as well. Looking back like 10 years at like how far your career has come as well. So,
well, and to me, I'm like, this is the beauty of the human experience. I'm a pretty deep person in that way. I do a lot of like present moment checks. Like even if I just look around right now and I'm like, okay, this is like, look at this moment that we're sharing. We're all three strangers in a plane, and so getting to like dig into somebody's brain and just share a conversation that you wouldn't maybe have. Or one of my favorite little games sometimes is if I'm sitting on the seawall and I just look at all the humans out there and I'm like, that's an individual that has whatever daily stresses they're carrying. Maybe they had a joyful moment today. Maybe they're going to do something excited. Maybe they're going into a day that they dread terribly.
Yeah.
But you're like, that's a little being that has a whole world. And we go through life so much not recognizing that.
Totally.
And that's what I love about it.
Mic drop. Not bad. We're going to play a little game to see how I might fare in news and media and broadcasting. And so I'm going to pitch you some story ideas, and then you can give me some feedback on if they might make a good story or not.
Perfect.
You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay. He's guilty. Stanley Park Coyote steals $14 avocado toast.
Ooh, man, definitely newsworthy, especially because, you know, one coyote, that means there's more. Think of all the avocado toast we could lose.
Oh my God.
That's the angle.
It's heartbreaking, really.
Right? And the price of avocados these days.
It's probably going to be, like with inflation now, it's probably going to be $16 avocado toast if the cafe is still open in a month from now.
It's true. So
I
definitely run with that.
Geographers all agree. West Van is more north than North Van. Name doesn't make sense.
It's a constant debate, isn't it?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not from here, but like, it just like makes me a little angry when I see it. So I mean, I have to imagine that there are other people that feel the same way as me around here. But
it's true. Honestly, I had to fill in for traffic for a while, and I'd always get stressed out when I talk about going over the Lionsgate Bridge because you're like heading to the Northwest Van, like it's basically the same but together but not.
Yeah, I know. Like as far as I'm concerned, like West Van is not even part of Vancouver anymore.
Well, and then
like,
West Vancouver, West End, West Point Grey, people get all confused.
And my last one here, local elementary school kids agree. We just want to see the volcano erupt.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I have a weird obsession with volcanoes. Yes.
You want another game?
Yeah, let's do it.
Things that you've always wanted to ask a reporter. So not that you're a reporter now. Or what would you actually? Because the terminology is just like it seems kind of niche. So what do you technically call yourself? Like an anchor for a morning show? Like what?
No, so I'm a host, but if I'm talking to other people, I would say branded sponsored content host and community.
Okay. Well, I have a feeling if this is a game, you're gonna do pretty well at it because you know the industry better than anybody. But okay, what time do you wake up right now?
It really depends on the day for me personally. So if I'm live, then I'll get up at 3:30 a.m. I don't need to actually be there super early when I'm going out in the field, depending on if I have to drive to Abbotsford or far away for a shoot. But I mainly get up early because coffee is necessary, and letting your coffee set in is a huge part of my morning. So
really?
I will sit and take time to have a morning first, because the thing is, It's kind of like I imagine athletes when they're going out and they're expected to be on the court, they need to be on the ball. And it's the same when you're doing live TV. I can't just slowly wake up. When it's live and the camera's on, our show starts at 5:30 a.m. My first live, if I'm out in the fields, normally in the 6 a.m. hour, it's go time. So I make a breakfast, have a coffee, do the things. Of course, you have to actually put a face on, do your hair, and all of that as well. We don't have makeup artists or hair. That's all done ourselves. So you need to allot time for that. But then as well, I do a lot of pre-tape content, so then I get a sneaky sleep in. My segments air in the morning, and people think that I got up wonderfully awake, but I actually did not.
That sounds like a really good hack.
Right?
That's really early. Do you have like something in your back pocket where you're like, if something happens, I'm going to talk about that?
I literally, if there's a camera on, like it's good they give you a count to stop talking. Because I could just go.
I mean, that's a really good quality. If because like I would struggle to like I'd feel like improv put on the spot. You know, like it's just 5 minutes is like a long time until you get going, and then once you get going, like then it's not enough time.
I feel grateful because for my roles, I don't have a prompter. I
Yeah.
don't use the teleprompter, and so
That was literally going to be my next question. Is like, do you
I'm
memorize
also
it?
psychic. No.
You can read. I mean, like
Yeah.
that's good that you can read, but you don't need to though for your job. So
Right, exactly. Honestly, and that's what I love most about it. It's super ad lib, and generally, that's the one question that stresses me out when I'm interviewing a guest because they go, "What are you going to ask me?" And in my mind, I prepare for a shoot. I'm knowledgeable about what we're going to talk about, but I don't prepare in my mind at all what's going to come out of my mouth. When I'm hearing 5, 4, 3, I don't have anything pre-loaded in my brain. I just go.
Did you at one point?
I
like,
feel like
earlier
when
in
I
your
first
career?
started out, especially on the weather side, I mean, I would be stressing, being like, okay, there's a warning here, da-da-da, like just boggling your brain. But yeah, I was the kid that had a VHS and used to talk to it all the time. I think I was preparing my whole life for that moment.
Well, I mean, I was gonna ask you like, what happens if you forget what to say, but that's not a factor for you. So, I guess the next one would be like, how do you learn to do the news broadcaster tone of voice?
Well, we're flying over. Isn't it weird that we all do have that inflection? But
Literally everybody has it.
it's really helps you be a clear communicator. I think it's important to develop your own cadence, and I think it's really important for people to add inflection to their voice. Your voice is being used as an instrument, but I do feel as though there was never a formal training when I was in broadcasting. It just kind of feels inherited.
Yeah.
It's like as it always was as I was growing up, and I was like, well, this is what we do when we're on air. But I think that when you're ad lib, there's less of that, which is nice. To a degree, I'm on, but also you're still yourself.
I think the criticism for that a lot of people probably feel is like it's insincere. But I like how you described it as like, well, it's a tool, it's an instrument. So it's really actually just for comprehension. Like it's for more people to understand what you're saying, which is the goal of speaking in the first place, is the communication of thoughts and information. So
Exactly. I mean, you are communicating with a wide audience of people at a given time. So it's helpful if they understand what's coming out of your mouth.
my last question for things that we've always wanted to ask a reporter would be, what do you do when you get a case of the giggles and you can't finish a hit?
Honestly, it's the best feeling at the same time. I've had it actually mainly with pre-tapes, thank goodness, but where you just can't get it together. And luckily, because you feel like the directors sometimes or people behind the scenes are like, ugh, come on, like, get the hit. And then it's just funny for them eventually, too, because laughter is contagious.
Yeah.
I've had really serious stories running and then something funny happened. And you're just like, oh, like, okay, just take a breath and holding it together, but you have the mouth twitch. And it's just like deep
And it
breathing,
just-
being like, don't do it. Don't do it. So luckily, I've not had a horrifying, insensitive moment yet. There's still time.
I love it. It's time for a quick game. This is rapid fire. It's a game called Did You Dabble With It? I'll say the subject, and then you tell us if you did indeed dabble with it. Let's get started. Harley Davidson 48.
Dabbled.
Of course, naturally. Anything with ghost peppers.
No.
Hasn't happened yet. The Nintendo Switch.
No, but I really want to try one. I'm like so good at Mario, it's unbelievable.
Bodybuilding?
Dabbled.
Dabbled hard. Watermelon radishes.
No.
I didn't even know what those were, but I'm sure you've had a salad with a watermelon radish in it. They're really more like an Instagrammable kind of thing that
Are
you
they
shave.
one with the pink outside? Okay, dabbled.
Yeah, okay.
Dabbled and didn't even know.
Pouring concrete.
I kid you not, that's my shoot tomorrow morning.
Really?
Pouring a foundation.
Is that your first time dabbling with concrete?
Yeah, so dabbling tomorrow.
We'll report back on this in 24 hours.
So weird and hilarious. I love it.
Kluane National Park.
Dabbled.
Driving golf carts way too fast around corners.
Dabbled.
Piston engines.
This is where you're going to learn that I'm like the most adrenaline junkie, non-techie person. Probably.
The 4-stroke cycle. Valve timing.
Definitely. Dabble every day. Wrenching in the garage.
How about bulldogs?
Dabble.
A special bulldog by the name of Stella.
Dabbled. She's also part couch potato.
And then last but not least, spoiler alert, a tarantula in Orlando.
There you go. Dabbled.
Can you tell us a little
actually.
bit more? Twice?
Yeah, but one obviously was a worse incident than the other. But yeah.
Here we are. It's the moment that we've all been waiting for. Krissy, are you ready to fly for a bit?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So I'll give you a little tutorial here. So
Yeah.
make sure you can reach the foot pedals there.
Okay, vertically challenged. So let's
Just
do
pull
one of
yourself up a
these.
little bit. Yeah. So put your hands on the controls for a brief moment, and then so if you pull up for, you can just like kind of see and push down a bit. You feel that?
Yeah, I sure do.
Push down. We don't want to go too slow. All right, so try to go back to like just a normal flight attitude. So go back to where we were before, just when we were going straight. Quiz time. I didn't even tell you how to do it. Perfect. So if you look out at the horizon, you can see kind of the top of the instrument panel here has a little gap between it, maybe like 2-3 fingers, somewhere around there. Keep it there.
Okay.
And that's kind of like, that's straight and level flight. That's where we want to keep it. And then we're going to practice a little turn here. So what way do you want to turn? Don't turn yet. Just tell me which way you want to turn.
Let's go lefty.
All right. So we're going to look to the left for traffic first. You see any other airplanes?
Shoulder check. We are good.
All right.
Alpha Tango, Alpha Echo.
Tango Lima Foxtrot. You almost got it. How does that feel compared to how you thought it was going to be? Like, I don't know if you've flown a lot of planes.
No, this is like the first time.
Harder, easier than you thought it would be. So far, so good.
Yeah, it's like pretty chill. I'm just like, all right, let's do this.
So you're ready to fly us back to Boundary Bay?
Absolutely, let's do it.
All right, I'll coach you through it. Well, that's it. We're getting close to our final destination, and the seatbelt sign has been turned on for landing. So Krissy will turn the spotlight over to you one more time to take us home. So tell the world anything that you want to tell them, and then last but not least, tell us how to find you.
Okay, if I were to tell the world something, I would say that life is beautifully fragile, and you should live with that knowledge every day, not in a way that makes you down and out, but in a way that makes you appreciate every moment and every day. I make it a life goal to try and have a meaningful connection or meaningful moment of myself or meaningful moment with nature every single day, because every day is a gift. And life is for living. So go live it and say yes when somebody random is like, let me take you in a plane. And don't ask them if they have their pilot license. Just go for it, because you get to share magical moments like this. So you can find me on Instagram at Van and Van City. I'm also on TikTok. Yes, I do annoying, silly lip syncs and dances at random. It's all part of the spice of life. And if you fancy a little motivation or to learn about the moto community, you can travel to @Motivation Podcast.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Krissy Vann. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on Radio Chatter. 9,500 feet. Thank you again.
Thank you. Let's take this baby home.
Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. You know exactly what to do. Fasten your seatbelts and subscribe for more.